All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, a few weeks ago, I talked about the importance of the first 10 games of the second half of this Major League Baseball season for the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs entered the second half of the season with a record of 44 and 46, as there was still a glimmer of hope for them to turn things around. But those hopes are fading fast for the Cubbies. They're not fast, but they are fading for the Cubbies as they've been unable to get off to the start of the second half that they really needed. Now, through the first 10 games rather of this second half, the Cubs are 5-5 while their overall record is 49 and 51. Now, right now, Chicago finds themselves in fourth place in the National League Central, 9 games behind the first place Milwaukee Brewers. And then they are also 8 games behind the San Diego Padres for the final wild card spot in the National League. And I really think it's time for them to throw in the towel for 2021. I talked about the importance of the Cubs needing to get off to a strong start in the second half. You're facing the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, they are one of, if not with the worst teams in Major League Baseball this year. The Cubs did go 4-2 versus the D-backs, but you really want to make that 5 out of 6 or even 6 out of 6. And then, losing 3 out of 4 in St. Louis to the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are an up and down team this year, just like the Cubs have been. So with that said, Chicago really was unable to go out there and take care of their business. We've already seen Chicago make one trade where they traded outfielder Jock Peterson to the Atlanta Braves. Not a big deal, just due to the fact that, they had just picked up Peterson in free agency, but, shifting him to Atlanta. But I think it's time for the Cubs to look at, parting with some of their bigger guns due to the fact that they can get some prospects back for them. You look at some of the core players that helped them win a championship in 2016. You're talking about Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, and Chris Bryant. And like I talked about it before, all three are pending free agents this offseason. The Cubs are not, and I repeat, not going to be able to re-sign all three. 1 out of 3, definitely. 2 out of 3, possibly, but not all three. The most expendable at this point, obviously, is Chris Bryant. He's probably also the guy that can get you the most back on the trade front. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Cubs deal with that. You still have Javi Baez. You also have Anthony Rizzo. And then, of course, Craig Kimbrel, the reliever. And this is a guy in Kimbrel where I do think there can be a bidding war. Just like Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez, Kimbrel is a pending free agent this offseason. However, you can never, and I repeat, never have enough arms heading into the postseason if you are a contender. So it's only going to take a couple of teams to, really get involved in the Craig Kimbrel sweepstakes. Of course, this guy does have a postseason pedigree. He played for the Atlanta Braves in the postseason. He helped the Boston Red Sox win the World Series back in 2018. So I guarantee you there are going to be several suitors for him around baseball. But these next couple of days, it really comes down to this front office led by Jed Hoyer for the Cubs. What is he going to do going forward? Is he going to sit back and evaluate this season and say, is David Ross his manager going forward as well? Ross is in his second year as the Cubs manager. He did get into the postseason last year. He was a part of the Cubs championship team in 2016 as a player. But no offense to David Ross. I was just never sold on him just jumping into a managerial position right away. But again, all of this comes down to Jed Hoyer. How is he going to attack this in order to get things turned around for the Cubs? Now, there can be a quick turnaround in Major League Baseball. We've seen it before. And the Cubs could make it work if they attack this thing and do it properly. And there's several ways to do it. See what you can get back for the likes of Bryant. See what you can get back possibly for the likes of Rizzo and Baez as well. And then on top of that, you need to spend the rest of this season showcasing your young talent. Give these guys an opportunity to see what they have and if they can play quality baseball at this level. So this way you know what you need or what you have going forward. I mean, the Cubs, don't get me wrong, they do have a manageable schedule throughout for the rest of the season. I mean, they have a 4-game set that begins tonight at home versus the Cincinnati Reds, who are playing good baseball, and they do have a 3-game set coming up in August at home versus the White Sox, which is followed by 4 versus Milwaukee. But outside of a 3-game set with Cincinnati and 3-game set with Chicago in August, as well as hosting San Francisco and Cincinnati in September, this is a pretty manageable schedule for the Cubs. But the thing is, you haven't seen enough from the Cubs so far this season to really get inspired and say, hey, you know what, this team is going to take it to a next level. It's really, we're getting close to that 11th hour. So there are going to be some critical decisions that really need to be made on the part of this front office for the Cubs to see what they're going to do. Again, you're not going to re-sign Chris Bryant. He's represented by Scott Boras. There's already some ill will between Bryant and the Cubs front office. And then once you factor in a mega agent like Scott Boras, who's going to look for top dollar, it ain't happening. So Chris Bryant, I don't see him with the Cubs past the trade deadline in a few days. Possibly for Rizzo, maybe for Baez, but definitely not Bryant. So it's important for the Cubs to see what they can get out of him in the next couple of days on the trade front. The same thing for Kimbrel. It just has not worked out for the Cubs. It's unfortunate because when they won in 2016, it looked like they had all of the pieces in place to be a championship team for the next 5 or 6 years. Now, with that said, when the Cubs emerged in 2016, so did the Houston Astros. Of course, they came back and won the World Series in 2017. Then you have the Boston Red Sox, who came out and won it in 2018. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have been consistently there. They took it home last year. So, it's one of those things you can't take it for granted. And sometimes, when you think that a team is destined to have a dynasty, it simply does not work out like that. The Cubs got their championship in 2016. Credit to them because it was the first one in more than 100 years. And their fan base was really stark raving hungry to see that championship. And I'm sure they're still soaking it all in. But nonetheless, you think about it, they had the pieces in place to win multiple championships, and it just didn't work out. So now it's time for the Cubs to turn over a new leaf and see what they can do going forward to once again be contenders in the NL Central. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you are on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off and saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.